Hello, I'm Ben Hoffer, chair of the JCRC, the Government Affairs Division of the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West. Together with colleagues of the Jewish Federations of Northern New Jersey, South Jersey, Heart of New Jersey, and West Central New Jersey, we are sponsors of this forum with our two candidates for governor, Jack Ciattarelli and Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Please note, this program is being recorded to accommodate the schedules of both candidates. As Jewish communal leaders, we believe in the importance of civic engagement and hearing from candidates for public office on issues of concern to our community. What makes this forum different is that the questions we'll be asking the candidates are framed through a Jewish lens. We're diverse people in terms of our political views and Jewish religious affiliation, but we all are inspired by the same Jewish values and care deeply about core issues like the U.S.-Israel relationship, the rise of hate and antisemitism, and the Jewish imperative to care for the community's most vulnerable. Due to the limited time we have with each candidate, we've asked them to deliver a short opening statement on why they're running for governor and what are their top 3 priorities. We've also asked them to limit their answers to each question to 2 minutes. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jack Ciattarelli. Mr. Ciattarelli is a businessman and politician who served in the New Jersey State Assembly for 6 years. In 2021, he ran for governor, narrowly losing the election to the incumbent, Phil Murphy, by I think 42,000 votes. A very small margin. He is once again running for governor on the Republican ticket, this time facing Democrat Mikey Sherrill. Mr. Ciattarelli, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours for short opening remarks.
Ben, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be with all of you here today. The question I most often ask is why you're running for governor. The Ciattarellis have been here for 100 years. 3 generations of Ciattarellis have all achieved their American dream right here in New Jersey. My grandparents coming to Raritan Borough in Somerset County, and my grandfather started out as a laborer, worked his way up, became a very successful independent contractor. My mother worked midnights on the line for J&J. My dad worked in the street department for public service gas, but there were 10 years in which they owned a restaurant. Mom worked by night, ran the restaurant bar by day. Dad worked by day. He ran the restaurant bar by night. And every dime they made went to their 4 children. I followed in their footsteps. I'm a 2-time successful business owner right here in New Jersey. So all of us, 3 generations, have all achieved our American dream here. And so when people ask me why you run for governor, I want today's New Jerseyans and future generations of New Jerseyans to feel confident they too can achieve their American dream here, feeling safe, getting the education of their dreams, the job of their dreams, raising a family here, starting a business here, retiring here. These are all the things that people feel insecure, if not fearful of today. That's not the state that I want to be governor of. An overwhelming number of New Jerseyans feel the state is headed in the wrong direction. 2 out of 3 are looking to leave as soon as they possibly can. We're ranked one of the worst places in the country to do business. We have an affordability crisis in the state because of taxes, housing, and now electricity rates. We have a public education crisis. We've slipped from 2 to 12 on the national report card. Because of things that have been done to the public school curriculum. We have a public safety crisis. Nonviolent crime is through the roof, break-ins, car thefts, anti-Semitism at an all-time high, flash mobs on our Jersey Shore and at our malls. These are all the issues that we're up against today. And I'm running for governor because I believe they can be fixed. I believe leadership matters. When something I love is broken, I want to fix it. And I do believe the leadership I can provide and the insights I've gained from my family being here for 100 years, from me being a 2-time business owner, from me having served at every level of government, term limiting myself each and every time and not even taking the pay or the benefits. I've served at the municipal level, county level, and in the state legislature. I know what's going on. And I'm willing to make the tough decisions to make New Jersey a better place to live, work, retire, raise a family for all New Jerseyans, 9.3 million of them. And so I'm excited about the race. We've got 40 days to go. As Ben said, we came oh so close in 21, but I am confident this time around we're going to deliver a victory for New Jersey on November 4th. So with that, I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Ciattarelli. My name's Daniel Hers, and I'm the chair of the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. And of the 609,000 Jews in New Jersey, we in the North encompass approximately 125,000 Jews. I'm going to start with the first question. As you said, anti-Semitism is at an all-time high in New Jersey. However, incidents, both criminal and non-criminal, seem to result in short-lived reactive responses rather than a proactive statewide strategy for addressing these issues. How do you propose to counter anti-Semitic crimes and incidents in our state, and how would you ensure that anti-Semitic hate crimes are properly prosecuted?
We know that anti-Semitism is at an all-time high across the globe, including here in the United States, and on a per capita basis, more anti-Semitism in New Jersey than any other state in the country. I think we have to call out hate when we see it. We've had leaders that have not done that. I will appoint an attorney general and a superintendent of the state police and 21 county prosecutors. That's the law enforcement organizational chart, if you will, across New Jersey. I will appoint attorney general, county prosecutors, and a superintendent of state police that are all sensitive to the needs and concerns and worries of the Jewish community. I've also repeatedly said that I support the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, and I'm willing to put some real teeth behind it to make sure there's legal consequence for those who violate it. I'll establish an advisory council on Jewish relations here in New Jersey. No candidate has spent more time in the Jewish community than I have, whether it's Teaneck, Tenafly, Linden, Jersey City, Lakewood, Toms River, Jackson, all across the state. I'm also, to the best of my knowledge, the first gubernatorial candidate. Actually, I have a rabbi as part of his inner circle of advisors. And Rabbi Avi Richler has become more than an advisor. He's become a brother to me. And so those are some of the things that we can do right out of the bat to battle anti-Semitism and make sure our 600,000 plus Jewish friends and neighbors and fellow New Jerseyans feel safe here in New Jersey. I do not want to be the governor of any state, of a state rather, in which anyone feels unsafe. Let me say something else with regard to what happened on our college campuses not all too long ago. When the current governor was asked about that, his answer was it was complicated. I don't think it's complicated. Anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism. And I will call on our university presidents and college presidents to do the right thing in terms of having everyone feel safe on our college campuses or anywhere they might be across the state of New Jersey.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. My name is Debbie Marcus, and I represent the Jewish Federation of West Central Jersey. You started touching on this, but I'll give you the opportunity to go in a little more detail. New Jersey values higher education and is home to several great colleges and universities. However, on some of these campuses, as you mentioned, including our flagship Rutgers, hostility towards Israel among certain groups has led to the harassment of Jewish students and faculty. How would you address these issues?
I was recently on the college campus there, visited the Hillel and sat and listened to students, and that's something, Jewish students, that's something I'll do on a regular basis. I want to hear directly from them. We have a new president at Rutgers. I think this provides an opportunity to hit the reset button, but I'm responsible for all 9.3 million citizens across the state. Of course, that includes our 609,000 Jewish citizens. And my job is to make sure they feel safe wherever it is that they might be. So we're not going to tolerate anti-Semitism, hatred, bigotry, intolerance anywhere. And but I'll work with our college presidents, our university presidents, to make sure that they're doing everything and anything that they possibly can. But most importantly, that they're listening. I think it's really important for them to be engaging with members of their student population, particularly those students who feel that the university isn't doing all it can to do the appropriate thing on campus and have them feel safe. So those are some of the things that we can do. But I always say my first job is to listen. And I've always prided myself on going anywhere and everywhere for those who feel this or feel that about the environment here in New Jersey, specific to their quality of life. So, and I plan on visiting the Hillel again sometime very, very soon. I want to hear what the students have to say about the message that's come out from the new president. Are they feeling any differently about the way things are being handled? And have they established an open communication line with the new president?
Thank you. I'm Alan Moldoff, representing the Federation of Southern Jersey. Jewish federations are committed to building and maintaining a strong New Jersey-Israel relationship through cultural, economic, and educational ties. As governor, how will you encourage a spirit of cooperation between the state of Israel and the state of New Jersey?
I think we do that in a number of ways. When I was in the legislature, I supported the bill that had us punish, if you will, those companies that were engaging in the BDS movement. I just completed, it's about a month ago now, my second trip to Israel, which I enjoyed very, very much. In fact, I've added to the bucket list that on my next time, I'm going to bring my 4 children with me. I want them to experience what it is that I've experienced during my 2 trips to Israel. Part of the objective of that trip was to increase bilateral trade with Israel. Israel's businesses do $14 billion in bilateral trade with New York, less than $2 billion in bilateral trade with New Jersey. There's nothing New York has that New Jersey doesn't. So another way to strengthen our ties with Israel is by increasing bilateral trade. And when I reestablish the Department of Commerce, there will be an Office of Bilateral Trade in Israel on behalf of the state of New Jersey. I will make sure that the New Jersey Israeli Commission is doing what it's supposed to be doing in every way. I feel right now that the governor really hasn't empowered that commission to do all that it can. In addition to having a rabbi on my team, I also have Amir Hadar on my team, who is my liaison for New Jersey Israeli. He's the executive director for New Jersey Israeli relations. He has a great many business relationships with entrepreneurs and founders and businesses in Israel. We want to begin the recruitment effort and establish just stronger economic ties with Israel. I think that makes a very, very loud and certainly clear statement.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Carol Kaminsky, and I represent Federation in the heart of New Jersey. You touched on this a little bit in your opening statement. If our state legislature passes A 3558, which codifies the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism in New Jersey, would you, as governor, sign the bill into law?
I've said yes in the past, and I'll say yes to you here today. So I know there's other minority communities that are concerned about it restricting their freedom of speech. But I know that 46 other countries have adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. And given the rise in anti-Semitism and the fact that on a per capita basis, there's more anti-Semitism in New Jersey than any other state, which saddens me deeply. Again, that's not the state I want to be the governor of. But I promise you also as governor that I'll call out anti-Semitism when we see it and when we hear it. We've seen instances where our political leadership speaks more to First Amendment rights than the anti-Semitism itself. This isn't about First Amendment rights. Anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism, and it shouldn't be tolerated. Let me also say that I will establish in New Jersey an interfaith council, which will be represented by all the leaders of the various faiths across New Jersey. We'll meet on a monthly basis, talk about ways to work together to strengthen our community. And what I will also do at least twice a month is visit a different house of worship. And through the power of social media, let people see our diversity. Let them see our governor celebrating our diversity. I think that's another way to help build tolerance in the community and strengthen our community and bring us all together.
Thank you for your comments so far and calling for people to all work together and build strength. So the next question is, what is your position on calls for the divestiture of state investments in Israeli companies or bonds? And I've heard your answer so far. And on calls for the termination of academic, research, and industrial partnerships with the state or institutions of Israel.
Israel is one of our most important allies across the globe, and we're not going to do anything to weaken that relationship. If anything, particularly right now, we should be doing everything we can to strengthen that relationship. So you're not going to see me as governor supporting calls for getting out of Israel in this way or that way. I think if anything, we need to strengthen that ties. And you've already heard me say today that in my Department of Commerce, we'll be opening up offices of bilateral trade in a number of countries. I'd like to see us do it in India, Canada, Mexico, but certainly first and foremost in Israel. And I think that sends a very loud and clear message with regard to the issue you raise.
Thank you. As governor of New Jersey, would you continue to support funding, including an increase in resources for the New Jersey Nonprofit Security Grant Program that ensures the safety and security of nonprofit and religious institutions throughout the state?
Absolutely. We can't afford, with given where it is today, we can't afford not to. And so I think we have to ensure as best we can, the safety of our students. You know, I remember a time when my parents didn't have to worry about me walking to the bus stop. They didn't have to worry about what I was learning in school that day, and they didn't have to worry about my safety while I was at school that day. We know this is a different time and era, and we have to react accordingly. So those programs will continue. Quite frankly, they've never been more important.
Medicaid is vital to the health and stability of hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans, including many members of our community. It is claimed that due to the passage of the federal reconciliation bill, New Jerseyans will be facing substantive cuts in Medicaid benefits. What will you do to ensure that low-income New Jersey children and parents, seniors, and the disabled are not left without proper health care?
My first priority as governor, and that of any governor, quite frankly, is to provide for the public health and safety of our citizens, and I intend to do just that. I do think there's been a lot of fear-mongering on the part of my opponent and the opposition party with regard to what impact Medicaid cuts are going to be having in the community. I know there's a couple of reforms that are in the big, beautiful bill that I think are being completely exaggerated in terms of their impact in the community. Fact of the matter is, one of the reforms requires Medicaid recipients to verify their eligibility twice a year instead of once a year. It was President Barack Obama that put that policy in place. President Trump kept it in place during his first term. Joe Biden put it back to once. President Joe Biden put it back to once a year. The president's only putting back in place what President Barack Obama did, having to verify your eligibility twice a year. I don't think that's unreasonable. But at the end of the day, if there are cuts that are coming out of the federal government, I've heard a lot of rhetoric about it. I've actually failed to see just yet the actual cuts themselves. But if there are, my job is to pick up the slack. We cannot have our most vulnerable citizens being underserved in any way. So we'll find a way to make it up and make sure that these people are taken care of. Let me say that as governor, I will be one of 50 members of the National Governors Association. I do think it's high time to instigate two conversations that are long overdue specific to Medicaid. Number one, I think we should just move everything into Medicare and being reimbursed at Medicare rates. That doesn't mean that we necessarily take care of the working poor and other Medicaid recipients differently. What it does mean is the providers would be reimbursed differently. The Medicaid rates in this state are terrible. And I do believe it's high time to have all recipients of Medicare and Medicaid and the providers be reimbursed at Medicare rates. I will also say that the second part of that conversation, I also think it's high time for the federal government to begin contemplating taking over 100% of Medicaid reimbursement. You know, Medicaid is a 50-50 match program, 50% provided by the state, 50% provided by the feds. During the Great Society, I don't know what the rationale was to have the feds pick up 100% of the care for elderly, Medicare, but only 50% for those that are dependent on Medicaid. I think it's high time to have that conversation. Fact is, the Medicaid budgets are causing a really crowding out effect in our state budgets across the country. But we have to do everything possible to get those Medicaid reimbursement rates up and have the federal government contemplate taking over 100% of the reimbursement for Medicaid.
Thank you. Politics in this country have become fiercely partisan and bitterly divisive, and political violence is a serious problem. How do you propose to restore faith in our political system and reach across the aisle in a spirit of bipartisanship to tackle our state's problems?
Leaders set the tone, and more than any leader, it's our religious leaders our governmental political leaders that set the tone. And so what you'll never hear out of me, because I take great pride, as my mother would always say, it's not how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. But I always try to engage, and I think I'm successful at being civil with my discourse. That doesn't mean that I'm afraid to challenge somebody who I think might have it wrong. And if I stand corrected, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I was wrong. But the way we engage in the civil discourse means a great deal. I'm very, very concerned about the emergence of a certain mayoral candidate in New York City. This is very concerning to me, and I know it is to all Jews in the metropolitan area and across the country. There's no room in the public sphere for this kind of a leader. And quite frankly, it is my hope that he doesn't win election. The 400,000 New Jerseyans that commute to Manhattan each and every day to work continue to be my responsibility, even when they're outside New Jersey. And I'm greatly concerned, and I know Jews are too, about the emergence of this candidate, who my opponent has kind of given an endorsement of, and he's returned the favor in endorsing her. I've called on my opponent to renounce him as a candidate and to reject that endorsement. Josh Gottheimer, the congressman from North Jersey, has done that. And Josh Shapiro, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, has done that. But again, getting back to the specifics of your question, it's all about the manner in which we conduct ourselves. And I've always taken great pride in conducting myself in a civil way. I've always conducted myself in a bipartisan way. I would challenge any of you to find a sitting legislator in Trenton that has a bad thing to say about Jack Ciattarelli. We haven't always been in perfect agreement, but they know that I'm a policy guy. And I'm idealistic enough to still believe that the best policy makes the best politics. And so whenever there's been a disagreement, it's been on the merits of the policy. But it's very important to keep relationships. Two of my favorite Abraham Lincoln quotes, and he is my political compass, the first of which says two people can honestly disagree, respectfully disagree, and neither one be wrong. But the second one is my all-time favorite. I really don't like the man, but I'm sure looking forward to getting to know him.
Very good. Thank you. So, last question, and a chance to set the record straight. During this campaign, has there been any information that's come out about you, and if applicable, your voting record, that you'd like the opportunity to clarify?
There's been a number of things that are out there that are not true. I'm not a bigot. I'm all about inclusivity, and I'm all about a welcome environment, but I'm also about a fair environment. Just because I do not believe that biological boys should play in girls' sports doesn't mean that I'm a bigot. And it doesn't mean that I'm not about an inclusive or welcoming environment for any and all New Jerseyans. But we also want what is a fair environment. Saying that I'm going to have 300,000 plus New Jerseyans lose their Medicaid is just a lie. We've talked about the reforms that the Big Beautiful Bill puts in place, and I've already said that our most vulnerable citizens are the ones that I need to look out for first and foremost, and we certainly will. To say I'm going to raise the sales tax to 10% is a blatant lie. We were having a town hall and we were talking about what other states do. I never endorsed what other states do from a taxation standpoint to say that that's what I'm going to do in New Jersey. What I have said is that I'm going to lower the property tax and I'm going to lower the income tax, because one of the ways to make New Jersey more affordable is to allow people to keep more money in their pocket. And there are very fiscally responsible ways that we can do that. But at the end of the day, I trust New Jerseyans to be able to cut through the clutter. And one thing I'll say about the Jewish community, which they should be very, very prideful of, they participate in the election process. They vote in greater number than any other minority community, and they get up close and personal with the candidates and then decide for themselves. And that really is what today is all about, and why I'm so very, very thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Ciattarelli. On behalf of all 5 federations, I want to thank you for joining us today and speaking with our community. I especially want to thank you for standing with us to denounce hate and antisemitism, and for your strong support for Israel and its ongoing war with Hamas. We wish you the best of luck as we head towards Election Day. Coming up, our interview with Democratic nominee for governor, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Please stay tuned.
Welcome back to the second half of the gubernatorial forum. I'm Daniel Hers, chair of the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey, encompassing 125,000 Jews. And it's my honor to introduce Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat candidate running for governor. Congresswoman, as you know, today's forum is sponsored by the Jewish Federations of New Jersey, which, along with my federation, includes Greater Metro West, Southern New Jersey, part of New Jersey, and West Central New Jersey. We represent together over 500,000 Jewish voters in our combined catchment area. As Jewish communal leaders, we believe in the importance of civic engagement and hearing from candidates for public office on issues of concern to our community. Those issues include the disturbing rise of antisemitism, our state's relationship with Israel, and the Jewish imperative to care for the communities most vulnerable. Since our taped interview with your opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, a lot has happened in the Middle East, specifically the return of the 20 living hostages and a ceasefire in Gaza. In addition to hearing why you're running for governor, we'd be interested in your thoughts on the end of Israel's 2-year war with Hamas. It is now my pleasure to introduce Representative Mikey Sherrill. Congresswoman Sherrill is a 4-term congresswoman representing New Jersey's Congressional District 11, which includes parts of Essex and Morris counties. She's a former federal prosecutor, U.S. Navy pilot, member of the House Armed Service Committee, and the mother of 4. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours for your remarks.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone from the Federation for joining today. And thank you for that warm introduction. I've worked closely with the Federation since before I was elected to Congress, and I look forward to continuing this relationship, hopefully as your next governor. I want to start by acknowledging the truly monumental events that took place earlier this week. After over 2 years, I am so relieved to see the 20 living hostages return to their homes. I hope that the bodies of those who were killed in captivity return home so that they can have a proper burial. And many are, I hope more are found. And may their memories be a blessing. As we see the powerful images pour in, seeing families finally united after really unimaginable pain, I find myself cautiously hopeful for the chance of a real peace. I'm also thrilled that Tenafly resident Idan Alexander, who, as we all know, was held captive for 584 days in Gaza before he was released, is now back home with his family and has had a street named after him in Tenafly. So upon his release, I was moved by how the Jewish community here and around our state rallied to support Idan and his family. And there's so much to do, and the road ahead of us is long, but I want to acknowledge the important work done by this administration to get us here. Peace in the Middle East should never be a partisan issue. It's a human one, and I applaud the work done to get the hostages home. I also know we have a lot of work to do here in New Jersey to combat anti-Semitism, lower costs, and make sure that every one of our kids has the opportunity to succeed here in the Garden State. So I'm running for governor. I've spent my entire life fighting for this country as a Navy helicopter pilot, a federal prosecutor, and a member of Congress. And I'm also a mom of 4 kids. And I'm running so my kids and yours have a lifetime of opportunity. And there's a lesson I learned as a midshipman in the Navy that I carry with me everywhere. Shipmate self. Means you're accountable to the mission of your ship, then your crewmates, and finally to yourself. That's how I've led in Congress and how I'll govern in Trenton. And so I've been so proud to work with you at the federal level to secure millions in federal funding for the nonprofit security grants program, which is helping to keep Jewish houses of worship safe. As governor, I'm focused on 3 big things: lowering costs for families on everything from your utility bills to your mortgage and your health insurance premium, supporting kids and giving them real opportunities to succeed in the classroom and in their careers, and making our state government accountable and transparent to all families. On day 1, I'll declare a state of emergency on utility costs to halt rate hikes and ensure that families don't see an increase in their bills. I'll focus on kids' 3rd grade literacy to set them up for success in school, and I'll boost mental health resources to keep them safe. And I'll create a New Jersey report card so that you can see where your tax dollars are going and what is actually being delivered. So thank you so much again for having me today, and I look forward to all your questions. Thanks again.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My name is Leslie Dannon Rosenthal, and I represent the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West. I'm going to start with the first question. Anti-Semitism is at an all-time high in New Jersey. However, incidents, both criminal and non-criminal, seem to result in short-lived reactive responses rather than a proactive statewide strategy for addressing these issues. How do you propose to counter anti-Semitic crimes and incidences in our state, and how would you ensure that anti-Semitic hate crimes are properly prosecuted?
So sadly, we've seen anti-Semitism on the rise in this state for many years now, since actually when I was first getting into Congress, before even October 7th, near to Meade in my area had a Molotov cocktail thrown at it. Oheb Shalom had anti-Semitic graffiti painted there while kids were at Hebrew school, little kids. So again and again, we're seeing these types of attacks across our state. And we're seeing horrible attacks online as well. And this is really scary for a lot of parents I talk to too, because you don't always know the hate that's going on online. Your kids don't always tell you. So there are a couple areas I'm really focused on. A state plan of action based on the U.S. national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, so that we have comprehensive reporting of hate crimes. A strong attorney general to aggressively combat and prosecute anti-Semitism. A stronger interfaith advisory council so we can all work together to address anti-Semitism across the state and understand how hate as a whole impacts communities, and holding our universities accountable. And so, as you sort of mentioned, I think this comprehensive statewide plan of action can better help us understand the growing threat and better address it in a comprehensive way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My name is Jeff Schwartz, and I represent the Federation in the heart of New Jersey. New Jersey values higher education and is home to several great colleges and universities. However, on some of those campuses, including Rutgers, hostility towards Israel among certain groups has led to harassment of Jewish students and faculty. How would you address these issues as governor?
You know, I had been hearing, so again, with the rise in anti-Semitism, I'd been speaking to rabbis and college students in northern New Jersey, and I had been hearing about the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses and working as to how we could start to address it. And then we saw the testimony in front of Congress and how there just did not seem to be a will to address it in the way that I thought was going to be powerful and actually make change. So shortly after I saw that, I reached out to every college and university president in the state of New Jersey, demanding that they outline their plans to protect students. We've continued to work with our colleges and universities on this issue to make sure that we are addressing it. It's been an iterative process. There's been times where we've gained, I think, some really good ideas from colleges and universities and passed on to other ones about how they're aggressively doing it. And then other areas where we felt they were falling short and felt we had to really push in and demand better for our students and families. So I will continue as governor to make sure that all students feel safe on college campuses, while at the same time also protecting the First Amendment to ensure freedom of speech. And I think in this country, we can do both.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks.
My name is David Bross, and I represent the Federation of Southern New Jersey. Jewish federations are committed to building and maintaining a strong New Jersey-Israel relationship through cultural, economic, and educational ties. As governor, how will you specifically encourage a spirit of cooperation between the State of Israel and the State of New Jersey?
So I have traveled to Israel twice during my time in Congress. In fact, it was one of, I think it was the first delegation trip I took in Congress, and then I've been there since that time. And I saw firsthand the deep connections between Israel and New Jersey. In fact, as you heard, I visited Kibbutz Erez, one of New Jersey's sister communities, and I heard directly about the important ties that so many New Jerseyans have to the state of Israel. I also have met with families of hostages on several occasions to advocate for the release of hostages through a negotiated ceasefire and ending the famine. And then as governor, I am going to continue to work to foster that cooperation and connection, because we know how important it has been as both an educational but also an economic partner for so many New Jerseyans, especially in those areas such as pharmaceutical and defense relationships, which have been so important to our economy here. So as governor, I will continue to foster those relationships.
Thanks, Congresswoman.
Thank you.
I'm also Jeff Schwartz, representing West Central Jersey. If our state legislature passes A3558, which codifies the IHRA, International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, definition of anti-Semitism in New Jersey, would you as governor sign this bill into law?
So I've supported the IHRA legislation in Congress, and I've stated that I'd support the bill here that includes those protections for free speech. And as governor, I'll stand strongly against religious bigotry, just as I have in Congress and at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so I'll continue as this bill moves its way through the legislature to continue to talk to people in the communities about this and make sure their concerns are met, because my primary concern is for people here to feel safe, for communities to feel safe here. And I'm going to be a governor that is going to do everything I can to make that happen.
Thank you.
Was that a yes, or was that?
Also, I've said I'll support it if it has the appropriate protections for freedom of speech.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks.
What's your position on calls for the divestiture of state investments in Israeli companies or bonds, and on calls for the termination of academic, research, and industrial partnerships with the state or its institutions?
So as I was talking about, Israel is one of our state's closest foreign trading partners. We're doing $2 billion worth of business annually with New Jersey, both in defense and pharmaceutical industries. And we also have some of, I think some people don't necessarily understand the interactions and sometimes don't understand the impact some of their asks would have on just day-to-day operations here. So our state's economy is very strongly connected to Israeli businesses, investment and trade, and this relationship supports a large number of jobs and businesses here in New Jersey. So at a time when Trump is closing our economy off from the global economy, I think it's important that we continue to be a leader in the global economy, and that includes continued business development with some of our partner Israeli companies.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My second question. As governor of New Jersey, would you continue to support funding, including a possible increase in resources for the New Jersey Nonprofit Security Grant Program that ensures the safety and security of nonprofit and religious institutions throughout the state?
Yes, this is something I've really worked hard in Congress. I co-sponsored and voted for the Nonprofit Security Grant Program Improvement Act. That was authorizing the federal program at $500 million annually. We've advocated, I and other members of the delegation advocated for increases to this. Importantly, in response to the growth in the program, it was funded at $180 million last year. This bill directs FEMA to establish a dedicated office within FEMA to administer the program that would provide greater outreach, engagement, education, technical assistance to support eligible nonprofits. Some of this, as many of you may know from working with the program, can include things like technical assistance on security, and I'll tell you just my own experience. We luckily had advocated and fought for this money, and so when that Molotov cocktail was thrown at near to me, they had put in place better protections in the windows in the building so that they could withstand something like that, extra security and protections, which was great to see. And so some of the technical assistance can help communities better protect their spaces. My office does webinars to provide an overview of the program so we can provide guidance to for getting access to those grants and how to apply for them. And I'll continue at the state level as governor to make sure communities have access to support for gaining access to the grants. Additionally, I've offered letters of support for those in the community that are applying, and as governor, I'll be a strong supporter of the state level New Jersey nonprofit security grant program to ensure that that's fully funded. I also strongly support the New Jersey non-public school security program, which is critical to keeping children safe in our schools as well.
Thank you. David Bross here again. Medicaid is vital to the health and stability of hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans, including members of our community. It has been claimed that with the passage of the federal reconciliation bill, New Jerseyans will be facing cuts in Medicaid benefits. What will you do to ensure that low-income New Jersey children, parents, seniors, and the disabled are not left without proper health care while dealing with the budgetary constraints?
On day one, I'm going to join the lawsuits against the federal government to claw back the money and ensure our residents don't lose health care. This could be up to a $5 billion hit to our budget for this program alone. So I think starting with trying to claw back the federal money is going to be key. But we also need to make sure we're using our state dollars in the best way possible to take care of our residents. That's why I'll issue a first of its kind report card, so people can see exactly where their tax dollars are going, and we can get the most out of them by ensuring we aren't throwing good money at bad programs. But we wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for Trump. This bill will raise costs. The one big beautiful bill, it'll raise costs. It'll kill jobs. It'll explode the deficit. And it's all to pay for additional tax breaks for Trump's billionaire donors. It's going to kick 410,000 New Jerseyans off of their health care and raise health care costs for 450,000 more. These Medicaid cuts will also reduce the funding that the federal government provides to school districts to support students with disabilities. Medicaid funds school-based speech therapy, mental and behavioral health services, and medical equipment, and Trump's cuts put all of this funding at risk. So my opponent has looked at hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans set to lose their health care, and then he gave the administration an A rating. He said Trump has been, and I quote, right about everything. He's made it clear he'll always bend the knee, and it doesn't really matter to the cost to New Jersey families. And this is an area where I will fight hard for families.
Politics in this country have become fiercely partisan and bitterly divisive. How do you propose to restore faith in our political system and reach across the aisle in the spirit of bipartisanship to tackle our state's problems?
So I have sworn an oath. In fact, I took my first oath to the Constitution when I was 18. I swore to protect and defend the Constitution. And so I'm deeply committed to protecting all of the rights we hold dear. And that includes the right to express your opinion. And what that doesn't mean is the right to be violent. In fact, that shuts down our freedom of speech rights. So that's also why, as a former federal prosecutor, I've worked to protect public safety and work to take guns off our streets to make our streets more safe. So talking to all voters, Republican or Democratic, is how I won my first race and flipped a seat that District Trump had won. I've long been working with everyone to secure billions of dollars for New Jersey. I've not been afraid to take on my own party, even during some of our biggest fights, and that won't change as governor either. I'll work with anyone to deliver for New Jerseyans. That is what earned me the title of New Jersey's most effective member in Congress in just my second term. And that's the same mentality that I will bring to Trenton.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Last question, and a chance to set the record straight. During this campaign, has there been any information that's come out about you or your voting record that you would like the opportunity to clarify?
Yeah, I want to take a moment to dispel some of the rumors and misinformation that my opponent's been peddling throughout the campaign. So I've not made an endorsement in the New York City mayoral race. I'm not going to get involved in the New York City mayoral race, and I am solely focused on New Jersey. I also have and continue to fully and unequivocally condemn the use of phrases like globalize the intifada. I think it instills a deep fear in people, and no one should feel unsafe here in New Jersey because of their religion. I continue to believe that anti-Semitism should never be a political wedge issue. I've never been afraid to call out anyone, including members of my own party, when anti-Semitism has reared its ugly head. And just last week, I called out a member of a union that's endorsed me. But I called her out for her anti-Semitic statements. I think it's telling that Jack wants to talk all about me, but he stays silent when Donald Trump uses anti-Semitic slurs. So here's my promise to you. As your governor, anti-Semitism will never be a political issue. It's a moral one, and I'm committed to fighting it no matter what. So thank you all so much for giving me this time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And thank you for your service to this country. On behalf of all 5 Jewish federations, I want to thank you for being with us today and speaking with our community. I especially want to thank you for supporting the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in Congress, for consistently voting in favor of military aid to Israel, and most recently, calling for the termination of the editor of NJEA, as you were just mentioning, the New Jersey's teacher union, who has been posting vile anti-Semitism on our social media. We wish you the best of luck in your campaign to become New Jersey's next governor. For more information on the candidate's position, as well as voting information, we've included links on the closing slate. Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. If you haven't already sent in your ballot, please make sure you exercise your civic duty next month and vote. Keep in mind, you'll also be choosing members of the state assembly and electing people to municipal and local government, town councils, and school boards. So make sure you're informed before going into the voting booth. On behalf of Jewish Federations of New Jersey, thank you for joining us.